Welcome back to the podcast where we run you through all the Dolphins news you need to know about. Today's episode is going to be... I'm going to have to keep this as... I think I'm going to keep the box score as short as possible because there is so much to go through on today's episode. This is a huge moment in this franchise's history. Because some major decisions are going to have to be made. And to be honest with you, if I was Stephen Ross, I don't think it's easy to be super emotional when it comes to some of these decisions that we're going to talk about on today's podcast. And we have some insight with some really interesting news articles coming from the Miami Herald on Ryan Tannehill and what his fate will be after the season that I can't wait to get into. I'm looking ahead a little bit right here. But this is going to be a very interesting discussion, and I cannot wait to see what your thoughts are on some of these topics down in the comment section below, because this is huge. So we'll start with the box score like we always do. Obviously, the Dolphins fall to the Jacksonville Jaguars 17-7. Unfortunately, this is probably a this is one of the worst losses that. This loss hurt a lot, and I don't really know why, because this season it was basically lost. Like, we would have been eliminated if we won this game. It really wouldn't have mattered, but something about this really it just was like, really, we're that bad. I guess that's what it was like. We're this bad. We lost to Cody Kessler and Blake Bortles. We lost to a football team that was exchanging quarterbacks like they do running backs in this game. They made quarterback changes twice in this game, and we lost. Is that how bad of a team we are? Is that how far we have fallen as a franchise, for God's sakes? It's absolutely disgusting. Some of the performances, especially obviously by the offense, the defense had a pretty easy job, so I'm not going to give them a ton of compliments. It was not hard to stop this offense by any means. And we should have gotten off the field a lot more than we did, to be honest with you. But offensively, this was the worst performance I've witnessed in a very long time. Now, granted, the Jacksonville Jaguars, and I'll just give you an overall thoughts of this game, and we'll get into some of the stats here in just a second. But overall, the Jacksonville Jaguars defense, yeah, it's talented, but people have been able to run on them pretty easily and make them quit pretty early on in games. This game was an absolute embarrassment to the franchise. Seriously. This was a disgusting game to watch. I have never felt so ashamed to be a Dolphins fan after this game. I haven't felt this way since we lost to the Jets at the end of the season to Geno Smith. That's how, this is bad. This is really bad. And like I just said, we lost to a team that was exchanging quarterbacks like they were running backs. It's absolutely disgusting. So again, your final score 17-7. Let's start with the defense, because that was the only. That's the only thing to be. I don't even know if we should be proud of that, because that's what we should have done against them. We only gave up 10 points as a defense. We should have given up more, but a lot of great plays by our defensive line. Cody Kessler finished. I don't even know why I'm reading this. This is embarrassing. Cody Kessler finished 12 completions, 17 attempts. 12 completions on 17 attempts. He had 106 yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Blake Bortles 5 for 6, 39 yards with 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Carlos Hyde finished with 8 carries for 47 yards. He averaged almost basically 6 yards a carry. Leonard Fournette 18 carries, 43 yards, and an average of 2 yards a carry. With 1 touchdown. Blake Bortles had 4 carries for 25 yards. He averaged 6 yards a carry. So that was your ground game. Pretty obviously, the defensive line played well in the passing game and in the running game all game long. Leonard Fournette had a couple nice cutbacks, but that was pretty much it. The defensive line probably had their best game of the year, but again, that's not saying much. Dude, Eric Flowers was in the game at one point. We should have done what we did. Receiving wise, they didn't really do any. Really nothing. D.D. Westbrook 7 catches for 45 yards. Dante Moncrief 4 catches for 43. Leonard Fournette 3 catches for 28. Rashad Green 2 catches for 22. The only big play that I can think of was the 2nd and 18 that we gave up to Blake Bortles, of all people. That was the biggest play. some criticisms of the secondary. Torrey McTyer is terrible. Like he's really bad. He baffles me sometimes. We had a blitz called on third down. It was like I think it was the first drive of the game. It was the perfect call, Matt Burke. It was a great call. I would have done the same thing. Cody Kessler, not known for making big time throws, in case nobody knew that, but Torrey McTyer, for some reason, on a 0-man blitz, decides to play so far off that it was just an easy catch and catch for Cody Kessler, because he was about to get smacked. If he held onto the ball any amount of time longer, he would have gotten hit. But Torrey McTyer just doesn't recognize situational football for some reason. It doesn't recognize what the heck the play. He's not going to run by you. And by the way, it's not like we're playing Antonio Brown or Julio Jones, for God's sakes. Their two best receivers are D.D. Westbrook and Dante Moncrief. Okay, so it's not. Have some confidence, for God's sakes. But Torrey has given up so many third downs this year, it's honestly uncountable. Cornell Armstrong, I would say he played really well. I liked how he played. The kid from, I can't remember, I say kid, I don't know why I say that. It's just a thing that I do. The grown man from Boise State, I know that makes me sound like an idiot. Not Boise State. I can't remember, it's Jalen Davis, I think is his name. He played well, he got a sack, he had a couple breakups. I think he had one breakup, but he played well enough. I mean, he was coming in on short notice, so he played well. But yeah, Torrey McTyer is terrible. Seriously, it's honestly, it's embarrassing. I don't know. I understand why Minka, because he practiced there, but I would have rather us put Walt Aikens back there than have. I would have put Minka at corner, because we did. Like, Torrey's not picking anything off. You know, he's not going to make a big play. At least Minka has an opportunity to do so. And Cornell Armstrong is not a bad two. He's played pretty well. He's always had, even in the plays he's given up, he's had pretty tight coverage. So, yeah, the defensive line played well. Robert Quinn finished with, I think, 2 sacks, maybe. He also had the stupidest penalty. It was a pretty dumb penalty. It was kind of, I don't know, it wasn't the worst egregious thing of all time, but it was obviously wasn't smart. Cameron Wake had a great game. We had that great sequence of events that was the best of the entire game, where we fumbled the ball with Brandon Bolden, and we literally sacked them out of field goal range. I mean, that's how sorry the Jaguars are on offense, but yeah, and we still lost this game. So let's get into the offense. I'm not trying to spend a ton of time on the box score, because I don't want to focus on this game, because we're really going to talk about the future of this franchise more than anything. And plus we have the fan Q&A, and I don't want to take up too much time on the box score. This is where we're going to get upset, right here. Offensively, this was egregious. This was disgusting. So let's start with the running game. Kenyon Drake, he had 6 carries for 23 yards. Ryan Tannehill was second in rushing yards with 3 carries for 22 yards. Kalen Ballage, 4 carries for 10. Brandon Bolden, 4 carries for 9 in that fumble. He played terrible. Danny Amendola had 1 carry for -2 yards. The running game was what it was all season long. It wasn't consistent. We had a little pops here and there, mainly on the first drive, but we continue to get pushed around. I don't have a pop filter, so I don't want it to pop too much. Gotta be careful on my P's, but we continue to be pushed around hardcore in the middle of the interior of the offensive line. Literally, any self-respecting defense who gets pushed around by us up front should be ashamed of themselves, because this interior of this offensive line is filled with utter... Listen, they're not good at what they do. They're terrible at what they do. Absolutely terrible. Ted Larson, Jesse Davis. Wow. What a way to follow up. Dude, I've really had... Jesse Davis, he's not a bad pass blocker, but he's a terrible run. He's terrible in the running game. Travis Swanson, you know, it's honestly, it's terrible. It really is. We just can't get anything going in the running game, and we're not. That's actually the best thing that we do, by the way, statistically in league rankings, which is insane, to be honest with you. This is where it's hard not to jump ahead, because passing wise, which was god awful today, the worst performance I've ever seen by Ryan Tannehill. Danny Amendola had 3 catches for 40 yards. Kalen Ballage had 2 catches for 39 yards. It's hard to do. That one busted coverage that the Jaguars had, It's crazy, dude. Kenny Drake had 4 catches for 31 yards. Devontae Parker 2 for 13. Durham Smythe 1 for 9. Kenny Stills had 1 catch for 5. Mike Gesicki 1 catch for 5. Brandon Bolden 1 catch for 4. A total of 4 yards. So talking about the receiver core, which talent-wise is absolutely sorry. I mean, seriously, it's been utterly disappointing. Kenny Stills is not obviously not a... No, there's not a number 1 receiver on this football team. There's not a number 1 receiving option on this football team. They're all super inconsistent. Danny Amendola has been a terrible... I don't even know if there's... I haven't seen any Dolphins fans talking about this. But Danny Amendola has been such a bad free agent signing. It's unreal. Okay? Granted, there have been plays where he hasn't gotten the ball where he's been open. The perfect example of that was in the Vikings game. He was open by a good margin. He just didn't get the ball. But that doesn't excuse... Like, he's really lost a lot of his run after the catch ability, which is what he was so good at in New England. And that's what all of the receivers in New England are good at. Catching short passes and turning it into positive gains. He has lost all of that. Anytime he's had a run after the catch... opportunity. I don't think I really cannot think of one time he's made the first guy miss. I can't think of one. He has been a huge disappointment and he just hasn't done anything in the slot for us this entire season. I don't even have to talk. You guys already know about Devontae Parker. I mean, he's been one of the worst first round picks in Dolphins history. Seriously, especially because of all the time we've invested in him and all the faith that we've had in him. But he just continues to disappoint us. Kenyon Drake is the best receiver on this football team right now. Seriously. That's not a joke. He's been the best receiver and the most consistent this entire season. He's been our only consistent offensive weapon. It's honestly, excuse my dogs are, crazy. The tight end position has been absolutely non-existent. I overhyped Mike Gesicki so much. If you've been a long time listener of the podcast, I absolutely loved the Mike Gesicki pick out of Penn State. I thought he was a great tight end. I still have hope that he develops into that, but obviously he's been terrible. And the big thing that I had a problem with him is his route running, because he's had his long stretch. I don't even want to get into it, but it's just annoying to watch this offense. It's so annoying. Again, like I said, every receiver in this receiver core, other than Kenny Stills, isn't worth anything. That hasn't done anything this entire season of merit. I just broke it down. I'm not going to go through the entire thing again, but it needs to be tore down. Danny Amendola needs to be so far out of this. He needs to go back to New England. Seriously. DP is just it's hard to watch. Would Albert Wilson have made that big of a difference? Probably not. He definitely would have been a better slot receiver, and we know that. I mean, at least Albert can make the first guy miss on a consistent basis, and he did that, when he was here. So who knows what would have happened if Albert was here. But in saying that, Kenyon Drake has been our best receiver the entire season. Our best offensive weapon, in terms of his skill position. Obviously, Laremy Tunsil has been the best player on offense all year. Ryan Tannehill, let's talk about this, because we have to, obviously. And again, I told you I didn't want to go so far long on the box score. But we're going to talk about Ryan a lot more. But he played so bad in this game. And not only the pick six, which was, first of all, he threw a pick six on a flat route to Kalen Ballage. If you were throwing it deep downfield, pick six, okay, that's whatever, slant route, whatever it is, at least it's going for something. You threw in coverage to a route that wasn't even a yard. What are you doing? And he threw it flat-footed it was so bad. That pick six was so bad. I've never seen him make such a bad decision. That was so bad. Not to mention all the sacks he took, which were so unavoidable. It's unreal. The worst one was it was like a two-step drop. It was a quick little play. It's a play that's been ran since football was created. The Jaguars ran on us a couple of times, and it worked for them. But it's a two-step. Don't hold on to the football. What are you doing? He took 2 sacks like that. Why he held on to the football? Like there was somebody going to do something with it. What do you think they're going to do, dude? Seriously. What do you think they're going to do with the football? Like, that was the dumbest thing I've ever seen. Like, what do you think they're going to do? Throw the football away. There's no one open, throw it away. Don't hold on to the ball. That was the 2 dumbest sacks I've ever seen him take. It was an absolutely terrible performance by him. And listen, there wasn't much going on the back end. There was a couple times I would have to go back and look at the game, and I don't want to do that. I really don't. But there is a couple things that maybe the free safety was over. I don't know, but there was a play where it looked like Devontae Parker was open for a touchdown. You know, granted, Tannehill didn't get a ton of time. He missed. There's a couple times he missed some receivers that were open. Durham Smythe, he took a sack on, but he was wide open in the flat. He just stared down the right side of the field. He did not go through his progressions. Granted, he didn't have a ton of time to, but he didn't get off of them quick enough, which led to a sack. It was just, it's terrible. And the thing that I have been a Ryan Tannehill supporter for since he was drafted here. But the thing that has always bewildered me about him is he never uses his athleticism to his advantage. Very rarely does Ryan do that. He's a pocket passer, but he doesn't need to be one. He doesn't ever really create with his legs. And that has probably been his biggest Achilles heel, in my opinion, is his creativeness as a player. Whether you want to say that's instincts, he just wasn't born with whatever that it factor is that a Russell Wilson and Patrick Mahomes has. He doesn't have that football player mentality in him to do some of those things. And it showed up in this game big time because he could have gotten rid of the football. He probably could have left the pocket a little bit earlier at times. It just was a very bad. He took so many unnecessary sacks in this game. So many unnecessary sacks that cost us drives, dude. And it's not all on him. The sorry receiver core that he has to deal with every single week is absolutely terrible. Bryce Butler, the only way he can get open apparently is literally becoming a WWE wrestler and throwing people to the ground. Okay? That's his best route that he can run, for God's sakes. That's the only way he can get open. Granted, it wasn't the greatest call by the referees, but he did push off. I'm not going to lie. This is probably the last home game you will ever see Ryan Tannehill in a Dolphins uniform. And that, for some, it's very, I really do feel like, because, trust me when I say this, the surroundings that Ryan has dealt with this season is below average at best. And his numbers are actually pretty good when you look at him comparative to his talent. Now, everybody who's listening to the podcast right now is probably rolling their eyes because I do defend Tannehill, and a lot of you point out that I give him, some of these people too many excuses. But that's true. That's a fact. It makes me really wonder what Ryan would do if he went to a team that, could stay relatively healthy, a half-decent team. If he went to a team, I feel like he would be pretty successful. Seriously. And when he does leave, because, trust me, he will not be returning, especially after this game, the way he played in this game, he's not coming back. Seriously. Stephen Ross was in the building. He had his head in his hand, the palm of his hand the entire game, like we all did. That was so bad to watch. But that is a little food for thought. Like, think about it. As bad as everybody wants to hate on Ryan right now, because it's pretty easy to do so, think about what he's had to work with, and think about where he might go. Like, that's not a joke. He seriously might leave and have success elsewhere, but I just think Dolphins are sick and tired of it. Dolphins fans are sick and tired of it and just want something to change. And I don't blame them. I don't blame them. And it's hard to sit there and give Ryan Tannehill compliments, especially after this game, and I'm not going to do that because he doesn't deserve it. Anyway, let's get into the future of this franchise, because that's what I want to talk about anyway. I don't want to talk about this stupid game because it was dude, it really solidified we need to make changes. This game seriously did that for the entire organization. This first news story comes from the Miami Herald and Armando Salguero. And the title for the article is "One defining change definitely coming from Miami Dolphins is quarterback Ryan Tannehill." Or one definite change. So this article kind of is very speculative until a point, which is what I'm trying to find right now, which actually gets into some cold hard facts. Sorry, this is taking me so long. Okay, so here you go. This is the facts. Sorry for the long pause. So this is kind of starting in the middle of the article, but again, most of it's speculative until this point. Well, I don't know whether that will definitely happen. He's referring to Ryan Tannehill leaving or not, but the Tannehill thing. Well, okay, never. He was referring to Adam Gase. Excuse me. But the Tannehill thing will happen because, and again, this is referring to Ryan Tannehill for sure leaving after. This is his last season as a Dolphin. But the Tannehill thing will happen because Ross has previously told people as much. So there is the canary in the coal mine. Before the season began, you see Ross told multiple people he believed in Tannehill to the point he thought him borderline elite. But Ross, while believing in Tannehill at that point, did something smart football men always do. He gave himself an out in case new information required a change of opinion. Yeah. And what if new information made it obvious to Ross that Tannehill was not what the Dolphins believed him to be? So they asked Steven this. They asked him, and if the information made it obvious to Ross that Tannehill was not the answer, what will you do, Steven? Steven said, quote, "We'll move on." So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. It's most likely, if not definitely, Tannehill, that was the last game you'll ever see Ryan Tannehill play at home. Now, some people are cheering. Some people probably, I don't know, probably feel a little bit of, just a little bit of a weird, eerie, I don't know if eerie or queasy feeling. I don't know how to describe it. But to be fair to the people that hate on him, not everybody hates him. So how about you guys chill out a little bit? Because not everybody hates him. Just like you guys would say, not everybody loves him. And that's for good reason. I don't blame anybody for that. But again, there's a large portion of Dolphins fans out there that are Tannehill fans. Will they be after this game? Who the heck knows? But there is something to be said for that, though. As much as you hate the guy, he had a 99 complete. What was it? I think it was completion. I don't know. Which is pretty good. He has 17 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. He has not started the entire season with a below average skill positions around him and a very below average interior of an offensive line that can't hold their own to save their lives, and a team that is so undisciplined that they commit ridiculous amounts of penalties, and a coordinator on defense who cannot coordinate a defense correctly. So it's not like he has been doing this with. And I'm not giving him an excuse. I'm not, as much as it sounds like this, I'm not giving him an excuse. But I think it's foolish to think that Ryan Tannehill is not a good quarterback. In terms of, once he leaves here, do not be surprised. And do not be surprised if he has success. That's my point. Which will be hard to take for a lot of us. Even the people that hate him, because it's going to be like, well, dang, man. You know. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he won't. But I honestly doubt that. This next news story comes from Sports Illustrated. Report, head coach Adam Gase's job is, in quote, jeopardy. Dolphins owner Stephen Ross is considering, quote, sweeping changes to the organization. And head coach Adam Gase could be on the way out, according to CBS. Quote, both Mike Tannenbaum, who, I don't even know who they're quoting right now. Both Mike Tannenbaum, who heads the team's personnel department, and Coach Adam Gase are in jeopardy of being let go, according to sources with knowledge of the situation. Quote, Ross has indicated to associates in various points throughout this season, his belief that change may be necessary, and with the Dolphins all but eliminated from the playoffs, he is expected to make at least one significant change to the structure of the organization. I don't think that's surprising to anybody. And it shouldn't be. There are so many things. Offensively, I really do feel like if we get a good coordinator in here, that the defense is pretty good. I don't think it's terrible. I think the interior, you got Vincent Taylor hopefully coming back healthy. Devon Godchaux, who's had a pretty good season, a pretty solid season. There are definitely things to build around, especially in the secondary. Xavier Howard, Mika Fitzpatrick, whatever we decide to do with Rashad Jones and T.J. McDonald, both are very good box safeties. You could probably get some average free agent to play free safety. We don't need anything special there because we can be pretty successful in the secondary. Or move Minka there and get a solid cornerback to play opposite Xavier, whatever we decide to do. It's a lot easier to fix the defense than it will be the offense because the offense has so many holes. The receiver, there's at least 2 positions that need to be replaced. The slot receiver for sure and outside receiver for sure need to be addressed. The tight end position I feel like is still a question mark because we don't know for sure yet. I don't think we know. And obviously the interior of the offensive line needs to be replaced. Josh Sitton cannot be trusted. He's had a career of injury-riddled seasons. This isn't anything new for him. Daniel Kilgore, I felt like he didn't play great when he was in. And Jesse Davis hopefully can develop some type of... To be honest with you, he's probably our best interior run blocker, but he's not good at it. And he's not a bad pass blocker, so maybe we keep Jesse around. I don't know. He's the only one that I would keep around. Because Ted Larson in the center position obviously needed to be addressed. Juwan James is also a question mark. What the heck are we going to do with him? So there are so many things on the quarterback position. It sounds like that's going to be something that we need to fill. That there's a lot of things on offense that need to be figured out. There's a lot of holes that need to be filled. And it's hard because the quarterback position especially is difficult. And this will be the big topic before we get into the fan Q&A where we answer fan questions. So if Tannehill leaves, which is sounding like he will, and it's probably most likely will be traded, what the heck are the Dolphins going to do? Seriously. I'm not familiar with Teddy Bridgewater's situation. I don't know if he signed an extension with New Orleans. I'm not 1,000% sure on that, but he could be in play. I doubt it. The free agent market for quarterbacks is pretty bad. Nick Mullins is out there. I don't know what his contract is like. Maybe we can make a trade for him. He's not, he's played well in place of Jimmy Garoppolo. I like what I've seen from him. I think he has a future in this league. But there's not much. I mean, the draft, Justin Herbert, he's he just doesn't have that it factor. He doesn't have that thing that I point to and say, you know what, he does that super well. Or he does that. He has that special quality to him. I just don't see it. I mean, I could be wrong. But, there was that report that Mike Tannenbaum loved him. It doesn't matter now because he's going to... If there was anybody who deserves to be fired, legitimately deserves to be fired, it's Mike Tannenbaum. But the quarterback position is such a conundrum because if number 17 does leave the aqua, the white and if he leaves the Dolphins helmet behind, then what the heck, what are we going to do? Like, seriously, what are we going to do? Do we just tank for a year? Like, what are we going to do? Because a year from now, or 2 years from now, really, I mean, you got Jake Fromm from Georgia, who's, in my opinion, a very good quarterback. And then you have Tua, who's obviously a great quarterback as well. So there is something there in the future. But that's 2 years from now. And... it's not like this offense is ready to win now either. Albert Wilson is the only one that I would keep around. Maybe we put him in the slot, but that's probably a good idea, is just to keep him in the slot. And he's obviously really good at moving around, trick plays and stuff like that, but Albert Wilson is definitely the only one really worth keeping around. That whole receiver core, mark my words, will be different after this season. But the quarterback position is such a conundrum. And we didn't even really get to talk about Adam Gase, but the whole quarterback situation is interesting. But as you can see in the thumbnail, well, if you guys are listening to this, but Ryan Tannehill, he's X'd out. He's leaving. Mike Tannenbaum, who the heck cares? Hire Dan Marino, for God's sakes. He's been a consultant for years now. He just hire him. I don't know if he wants the job, but if he does, give him the job. And then Adam Gase. I really do feel like Adam has done a great job with the cards that he's been dealt. And I know for a fact no one wants to hear that right now. But I don't want to make excuses for him because this season has been a wash. And I'm sorry, I just hit the mic with my hand. But the home record is something to build off of. And if you don't think so, you're crazy. We just can't win on the road for whatever reason. And Adam Gase in the past obviously has a good eye for quarterback and he talent, and he's been really good at coaching quarterbacks in the past. That's why he has this job. So, I would keep him around and let him pick, because I really do feel like objectively or subjectively he can just pick whatever whatever the pick of the litter, so to speak, even though there is not like some major star that's going to be out there, but he gets to pick whoever he feels comfortable with, and maybe that's a good thing. But again, the quarterback situation is such a question mark. And again, out of the 3 people up there in that thumbnail, I would keep Adam Gase. And I know that sounds crazy to some people, but I truly do believe he has brought something to Miami that not many coaches have brought, and that's consistency at some aspect. And that's winning at home, which is important. And his division record in the AFC East is actually pretty good. So, and I know some people, well, that's not saying much. Well, look, because the Jets and Bills suck. The Jets and Bills have sucked for a while, and we still haven't been able, on a consistent basis, to have a good record with any of those head coaches. But Adam Gase has brought some of that with him. So, I don't know. This is going to be an interesting offseason. I just don't understand what the heck what are we going to do with, like, when Ryan leaves, what will we do? Because I'm not dealing with some, stopgap quarterback for a year. I'm not dealing with the Josh McCown. I'm not. Just so I can make my stance clear, so no one's confused because I've been talking for 30 minutes. I'm all for moving on from Ryan Tannehill if you can find someone better than him. If you can find a quarterback that's better, then let's do it. If you believe that Justin Herbert's better, for whatever reason, because I don't know, he could be a franchise quarterback, I don't know, I just don't see it in him, then I'm all for it. But if you can't find anybody better, then there's no reason to move on from him. His numbers are not terrible, despite the talent around him, which is atrocious. But again, just so I'm clear, all for it if you can find someone who can play better than him. Or whatever the plan is to find a quarterback that can replace him that plays better than him. Because obviously Dolphins fans want someone like a Patrick Mahomes, like a Deshaun Watson, just an upper echelon quarterback who can make plays, who's a playmaker. That's what the fans want. If you can find that guy, then God bless you. But if you can't, there's no reason to move on from Ryan. Because if you can't find someone who can play just as good as him, then there's no reason for it. I'm 1,000% obviously on the Matt Burke needs to be fired train, have been since this mid-season, and even last year. Mike Tannenbaum, he needs to go. We need to find someone else. Peyton Manning, if we keep Adam Gase, they have a strong connection. He's been wanting to get into the NFL business. Maybe that's something that we can work out. Dan Marino, hey, buddy, he was listen, you've been a consultant for years. Stephen Ross, maybe you throw that in front of him. Maybe he'll take it if he wants the job. I don't know, but I'm definitely 1,000% behind. We need to get rid of Mike Tannenbaum. He was chased out of New York for a reason, and he hasn't done anything since he's been a Dolphin. I do not know how he's survived this many GMs and regimes. I have no idea. Adam Gase, listen, despite this season and how disappointing it's been injury riddled, and clearly there are holes on the offensive side of the football, major ones that need to be fixed. And I think he can do it. I'm down for it. I would keep Adam around. I think what he's done to establish the home field advantage here, which no coach has done since Jimmy Johnson and Don, especially Don. Don was obviously, we had a huge home field advantage when Don Shula was our head coach. One of the biggest winning streaks at home in NFL history. So Adam Gase has done a great job of creating that atmosphere in Miami and of making that something that has been consistent. So I think that should be good enough for him to stay. And Chris Grier, I'm totally cool with. I don't think he's the biggest decision maker in the organization. I think he's made some pretty solid picks over the last few years. I think he's had some duds. Like, I think his biggest one was Charles Harris, obviously. But other than that, he's drafted pretty well. And he's found some pretty talented players. And, Jerome Baker, say what you will about Raekwon, but he's been a pretty good second-round pick, in my opinion. He's been an NFL starter, and I think he'll grow into that and get even better. Xavier Howard, who I'm forgetting some people. Laramie Tunsil, Devon Godshaw, Vincent Taylor, There's been a lot of solid picks from him. So I'm not mad at Chris Greer. I don't blame any of this on him. So yeah, that would be my my stance on all these big moves that are coming. So let's get into the fan Q&A. So the first question comes from Adam Burke. He asks, his question is, 3 picks in the draft must be linemen. We need to play Tannehill for another season. Free agency must be D-line. Free agent is for now, so draft is for the following year. And depth need Sitton and Kilgore for next year. Keep Gase, hand over play calling, and get rid of D coordinator Burke. I agree with some of the things that you said. Free agency must be D-line. D-line is not as bad as you might think it is, to be honest with you. I mean, Cameron Wake, the other in position needs to be addressed, because at this point in Cameron Wake's career, he's just a situational pass rusher. Robert Quinn has been he's not really a great 3-down player, so maybe the edges need to be fixed, but the interior, I'm not like overly upset with. I think maybe we can get somebody in free agency who's a little bit cheaper, who can help us stop the run. Hopefully we get somebody in here who changes personnel a lot, because I feel like that's probably the best way to call a game defensively, is for somebody who just is smart enough to match personnel, and who can do that on a successful basis. So maybe that's something we need to look into in terms of the defensive line. But yeah, I guess I agree with you on the edges, to find some more consistent 3-down players there. Kilgore, I'm not mad at. Sitton, I'm not mad at. It is kind of rolling the dice on both of them. They both have a pretty bad injury history. So that is what that is. And the handover in the play calling stuff, I don't necessarily agree with either. This next question comes from Adam Burke, but I agree with most of the things you said, Adam. Adam Burke again. He says, tight end not a factor all season. I believe this hurt the third down play calling. I think there's a lot of things that have hurt the 3rd-down play calling. Protection has been poor. We can't run the ball on a consistent basis, so we constantly find ourselves in a second and third. If I was Adam Gase, the thing that I've probably been most disappointed in is you don't always have to run routes to the first down. I feel like we go away from the quick passing game way too much. It's a big part of today's NFL. Maybe he felt like we don't have the receivers to do it, but right after the catch is a big deal. And I feel like some of the reasons why we struggle on 3rd down so much is we don't complete any balls, because we're either getting sacked or it's going to be a throwaway, or we run the ball or screen it. But throw underneath more. Throw some quick slants. Maybe it's short of the first down. Maybe he makes somebody miss. You never know. We just didn't do enough of that this year. Even on 3rd down and long situations. If you look at most of the 3rd and 11 pluses that people convert, a lot of it is behind the chains, and somebody just makes a play. And I feel like we don't do enough of those route concepts enough. But the whole tight end situation, I would agree to a certain extent. I felt like Mike Gesicki didn't get enough. Some of the routes that and Adam has been very critical of him, saying he just can't run all of the routes in the route tree yet, or he can't trust him to. Maybe that's a factor. I don't know. But yeah, the non-existence from the tight ends has been an issue, and definitely, most certainly, has affected some 3rd down situations. This next question comes from Josh. He says, I know you would rather not see this scenario playing out, but if Ross makes sweeping changes that result in Tannehill being cut, where do you see him most likely landing, and where do you think his best chances for success would be best? I, for one, would like to keep him while bringing in 2 young quarterbacks to compete and develop, but I saw Ross with his head literally in his hand during the Jazz game, so we'll see what, quote, sweeping changes mean here soon. I think he could have a lot of success in Denver, especially since the draft is weak and the free agent market isn't great. If we do get rid of Ryan, I think we'll be, again, because we can't replace him, will be a huge mistake. And I think a lot of teams would be happy if Ryan Tannehill was available. I could see him having a lot of success with Jacksonville, Denver, some of the quarterback-needy franchises. I could see him having a lot of success with those teams. trying to think of some other teams that might be. Those are the only, especially Jacksonville. I could see him having a lot of success in Jacksonville. This next question comes from Josh. He says, do you think that blowout win in Denver last year where we made the onside kick after already having a substantial lead would make Vance Joseph think twice about coming back? Not that there wouldn't be other detractors for him. Not that, I'm sorry, that was a long pause. My thing was messing up. Not that there wouldn't be other detractors for him. No, I don't, first of all, if Todd Bowles is available, he's my number one. For sure. Todd is a great coach. Everywhere he goes, he does a great job. He gets resounding support from other coaches that I respect a lot. You know, Bruce Arians, he's one of my favorite coaches of all time. I mean, if you look at his track record, when he's done developing some of the superstars and legends of this game, it's ridiculous. So, Todd Bowles, everywhere he goes, man. He coached a great defense in Arizona, which he helped build. He was a great coach in Miami for a while. He's a great with DBs. We have a lot of young, talented guys there. I feel like he could do a great job with. And his scheme, the back end really fits his scheme. So I like Todd Bowles if he's number one. Vance, I don't mind coming back. You know, when he was here, I think the thing that the players liked about him most is he's just a lot of people just respect him and listen to him, which is a big deal for a coach. This next question comes from Adam Burke. He says Jags, but again, I don't think that would detract. I don't think that would factor in at all. Jags defense was good, but the blitzed, because just to finish that, Adam Gase, if it wasn't for Adam, he wouldn't have a head coaching job. So I don't think that would hurt him at all. This question comes from Adam. He says Jags defense was good, but they blitzed on third down, and we knew it. It would cause a sack or incompletion. What was the difference of the game? Question: what would you change with the third down play calling? I said some. Like I said, I would run more routes that are short of the first down. Like Kenyon Drake, maybe run a slant with him, something to get him open space, something different. You know, get Devontae Parker, just complete a pass. And because obviously we can't run anything, we can't protect long enough to do that. You know, run routes that are 11 yards down the field that are past 11 yards and get a first down. Obviously, we're incapable of that. So that's something I would definitely change. And one of the things that I was really upset about Ryan, he did a terrible job of checking and moving pass protection. There was a play where Nick O'Leary motioned, and initially I thought, okay, we're motioning him to pick up the corner blitz or the safety blitz. I don't remember if it was the corner or the safety. But no, it was just a motion. That's all it was. And Ryan literally didn't see it, and a free runner, I think we rolled out right. I don't know. We did something really stupid, and he got pressure immediately because we didn't pick it up. I feel like he did a very poor job of picking up blitzes in this game as well. It seemed like he didn't even care. It was very weird. Because I know he's smart enough to I mean, it was very weird. This game was very weird. It was very, very, not weird. It was just bad to watch. This next question comes from Douglas. He says, my biggest disappointment this year were the horrible offensive line play and Matt Burke's wide 9 defense. What were yours? What are your thoughts on Juwan James and Devontae Parker? Do you want to bring them back? I think we should bring James back, and it's time to part ways with Parker. We also have to lock up Xavier and Tunsil sooner rather than later. I agree with you. We definitely have to get them locked up. They're two. I feel like Juwan is a good starting tackle in this league. I don't think he's great. The wide 9 defense needs to go, of course. I'm definitely getting rid of Devontae Parker, and I definitely would keep Juwan James, to answer your question. But what are my worst 3? Let's see here. So what are yours? What about my biggest disappointments? I already knew Matt Burke was trash, dude. After last year, I mean, I think we all did. But that didn't disappoint me. I feel like the things that disappointed me the most, I would have to say Danny Amendola is one of them. Mike Gesicki is a big one. The offensive, just in general, disappointed me big time. I thought they were going to take a huge step. They didn't, especially how we started 3-0. There were some things to build off of those in those games, stuff to build off of in those games, and we just didn't do that. Tannehill disappointed me big time. The offensive line disappointed me. I really don't feel. I feel like I'm pooping on Tannehill a lot here, but there again, the offense around him is very poor, very poor. And you know, when people look at Patrick Mahomes and they look at Deshaun Watson, people have to keep in mind they stepped into in Baker Mayfield as well. They stepped into talented surroundings. Like when you look at Deshaun Watson, he stepped into an offense that featured DeAndre Hopkins, Lamar Miller, Will Fuller. Those are very talented players. The only thing that he really didn't have was the offensive line, and obviously that didn't affect him too much because he has the ability to make plays with his legs. When you look at Patrick Mahomes, I mean, he came into an offense with Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, Andy Reid, who's a great player. I mean, he came up into a great, talented offense. Samuel Watkins, like a Kareem Hunt at the time. Like, he came to in a very talented. So, it's not like Ryan had all of that and still failed. There are still things that we need to build on in this offense. And if we do get a young guy in here, we need to surround him with something so he doesn't have early failure. Sort of like we did with Tannehill, who stepped into a terrible offense. If you hear snoring, that is not a human being. That is a pug. They're just very loud. This next question comes from Tech Me Out. He says, game on the line, luck under pressure, throws a dart for winning touchdown. Well, that was wide open. Deshaun Watson, game on the line, drives then down for a go-ahead touchdown with 2 minutes left. Tannehill, season at stake, throws in an interception for touchdown. I think we've all seen that. 7 years enough. Time for a new quarterback. Okay, who are you going to... There's no Deshaun Watson. And this is what frustrates me about these people. Or I don't want to be disrespectful. I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but this was what frustrates me about the whole Tannehill thing. Then who... If this was last year, I get it. And there were people last year that wanted to draft a quarterback, including some people in the organization. But we didn't. So, we find ourselves in this room now. Then who the heck do you want to replace him with? You can't just say, oh, I want Ryan out. Then what the heck is the plan? Because this year, more than any other one, the quarterback market and the quarterback pool is dried up. There's nothing that we can do about it. There's no clear answer. There's not. There's no Carson Wentz. There's no Jared Goff. There's no Patrick Mahomes. There's nobody in the draft that says that guy does something spectacular or has that it factor to him. There's just not. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's somebody in the draft that will be. But it's going to be few and far between. So it's not... If there is going to be the one, there literally might just be one. So it's just so difficult to say those things. And like I just said, I mean, that's what's so difficult about the Tannehill situation this year. If this was any other season, it would be a lot easier. I could tell you right now, say this is 2019 and we're doing this. We're trading 2 first-round picks. I don't care what we have to do to get Tua. That's what I would say. But there is no Tua. There is no Jake Fromm. There is no player like that I would say, let's mortgage the future for, like so many other teams have done to get their franchise quarterback. There's just not that guy that I feel confident doing that with. And then forget about free agency. There's nobody. Because nobody's going to give up a franchise quarterback, a legitimate one. We saw that with Kirk Cousins. The Vikings thought he was. He's not. There's a reason he left Washington so easily. Same thing with Case Keenum. They're all journeymen. They're all going to be journeyman quarterbacks. We want someone, and I know this is what you want, and this is what all the Dolphins fans want. We want a franchise. The only way we're going to do that is finding one in the draft. The only other time that I can really think of, and maybe I'm misremembering some things, the only big-time quarterback that was let go is Peyton Manning. And that's because, or Drew Brees, I guess you could say that, but Drew Brees at the time wasn't considered the great Drew Brees. Like, Peyton Manning was considered, obviously, Peyton Manning. Drew Brees wasn't yet. So, there hasn't been really one of those in NFL history other than him. So, it's going to be hard, man. You got to go through the draft. This next question comes from Ron. He says, do you think Gase got the message now, what he needs to draft/sign some offensive linemen? I mean, we're more talented than the Colts, but they got to go and draft Quentin Nelson out of Notre Dame and Brendan Smith out of Auburn, and it changed their fortunes of that offense that offense. It allowed them to run the ball and shave a ton of sacks off of Luck. Do you think Adam will get the message now if he isn't fired? 1,000%. I think we all understand that. And I think, to be honest with you, that's the way to go, is to keep Ryan around and draft a young guy. I really do believe that. Because unless there's someone out, there isn't anyone out there, ladies and gentlemen. There's just not. But I completely agree with you, Ron. The interior has to be overhauled. This next question comes from JackPack18. He says, what a pathetic performance. This team is not well coached. Offense is impotent. Defense is soft. They're just draft/sign linemen on both sides of the ball and become a power running team. The wide receivers were invisible again. 1,000%. There's so many holes on the offensive side of the football. There's stuff to build off of in the defensive side. But the skill positions, other than Kenyon Drake and Kalen Ballage, they need to be fixed. And we've already went over that with the slots and stuff of that nature. But you're right, it was a very pathetic performance. This next question comes from Douglas Ward. He says, I think we should keep Tannehill for another year. Let's trade back in the first round or out of it altogether, and if possible, have 2 first-round picks going into 2020, which is supposed to be a deeper quarterback draft. If Ryan can get it together next year, great, and if not, we would have the draft capital to make a move on to a new quarterback. What do you think? The only difference in what your statement is there, and this is why other people are going to be mad. They're going to be like, well, we do that everywhere. Well, maybe he'll be great this year. The difference is this year there's no one to draft. That's the point. So that it's a good plan to say, hey, well, Ryan's he's a good quarterback. We're going to stick with him another year. Hopefully we win some games. If he doesn't work out, we'll mortgage our future to get someone who's good enough, who's a franchise quarterback. So that's a solid plan to me. It makes more sense than reaching for one this year and possibly ruining our future for 5 more years. And who knows? Maybe Justin Herbert is a franchise. I don't know, but I don't know. I don't know. I don't know for sure. This next question comes from Ron. He says, Wake again showed up today. He is the Dolphins' best defensive end. Can we finally pursue DeMarcus Lawrence? I mean, Branch and Quinn lock up $21 million for 1 year. Wouldn't make it more sense to pay Lawrence 15 of that and have it be 1,000%. I don't think Wake's a 3-down guy anymore, though. I think, like I said, I think he's more of a pass rush specialist on 3rd down. Ron said, and we can get someone who can come in on 1st and 2nd. I said, this next question comes from Ron again. He said, I said for a while now that Amendola, Parker, and Stills do nothing for us on offense. For the final game next week, will we finally see Ford, Owusu, and Carrillo? I don't think they're going to do anything much better, dude. I think if they were, they would start. This next question comes from Corporate Gamer. He says, Finns are expected to move on from Tannehill and Parker. Thoughts? Parker, obviously, Tannehill would be a mistake. Unless you have someone you can replace him with. This next question goes to Madden Break. He says, sorry, Finns fans, we are stuck with Tannehill 1 more year, except for a trade. He is serviceable with the defensive O-line. Need to build from the O-line first and O and D before this team gets better. The defense will be easier to fix, way easier. The offense is the thing that I'm worried about because there's so many holes. Defensively, there are I feel like if we get a good coach in here, they can cover up some of the shortcomings. I really do feel schematically and coaching is a huge problem with this defense. That's why we've given up so many big plays. A lot of it has been miscommunication, not physical. And that comes from discipline, and that comes from bad coaching. So if we can get someone in here to get the team right and coordinate this defense the right way. The offensively is what we need to fix, and I think it's something we need to focus on. Mediocrity in Miami says, Gase, Burke, and trainers gone now. I mean, I agree with the Burke thing, but it's tough for Adam. I would have an issue getting rid of him. Corporate Gamer says, now I would officially say it's time to get rid of Tannehill. We need to get rid of him. But, again, it's easy to say that. Will Grier would fit the scheme very well. I don't know if Will Grier, I don't know. Brandon says, Skaggs, my friend, you are smart, man. Do you finally think it's over? The 7-year Tannehill saga. Like I said, if you can present to me someone who can possibly change this franchise around and be the franchise quarterback that everybody wants, I'm on board. But if you can't, then I don't want to hear about it. Because it's just stupid to get rid of Tannehill. If you guys want to lose a ton of games next year, then get rid of Tannehill and get someone like Josh McCown or someone like that. That's just, it's so counterproductive. I just don't get it. What do you guys want to win next year? What do you guys? I don't understand what the fans want. Brandon says we really need a draft corner for depth, and so Bobby can stay in the slot. Who in college do you think will play and fit in our scheme? There's a couple people, but we're running low on time. We got what, 5 minutes left? Dude, who's the guy? I would have to go back and look at it. Names are escaping me right now. Next question comes to Brandon. He says, how likely is it that we get Nick Bosa? Very unlikely. This next question comes from Wayne. He says, can we please make changes now, or defense starting with the coordinator? I mean, no. It's not even worth doing at this point. This next question comes from Ron. He says, Jalen Davis made Matt Burke look stupid for not using him earlier in the year when we had injuries with Howard, McCain, and Tank. What are your thoughts at how well Davis played at corner? I don't think he played that well. I mean, he got away with a pretty bad pass interference call on the goal line. He had a good sack, but he didn't play terrible. I feel like he played well enough, but I don't know if he's a starter. Don't get me wrong, he played well, but I just don't know if he can consistently do it. This next question is from Brandon. He says, somebody is definitely getting fired. Who do you think? I really hope it isn't Gase. I agree with that. I think it's going to, hopefully to God, it's going to be Mike Tannenbaum. This next question comes from Brandon. He says, do you think we can get Harbaugh or keep Gase? I don't want Harbaugh. He doesn't commit to a program or a franchise good enough, in my opinion. He moves around too much. I mean, he went from Stanford to 49ers to Michigan. Like, what the heck is he? Like, I just don't trust him. Do you think we keep Stills? He was good, but I just feel a complete overhaul coming. I don't know. I think there will be an overhaul coming, but I feel like it'll be in a good, like, just replacing a lot of people. Well, which is an overhaul, but not in like a teardown situation, like we're gunning for like early first round picks. There is a winner in this team. There's just a couple things we need to fix on offense, get a new defense coordinator. This team can win games, dude. But there definitely need to be some major changes for us to do that, for sure. But it's bad, man. A very dark cloud is over Miami. Things are very foggy right now. I'm worried about a lot of it because I feel like a lot of bad decisions that can alter. A lot of bad decisions can be made, man. Hopefully I say this as a Dolphins fan. Hopefully we don't regret it. A lot of the decisions we'll make, but I have a very bad feeling about all of this. So I'm very, 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 very skeptical. I don't know what's going to happen. I just don't feel good about it. I don't feel good about it. And like I said, I feel like we're going to regret some of it. I feel like if we get rid of Tannehill, I think there's a good chance we'll regret it. I know a lot of people don't want to hear that right now. Again, I'm all for it if you can find someone that can play football. And I was on the quarterback train last year. I said, we did a whole 4 or 5 podcasts just breaking down quarterbacks for a reason. It wasn't, but this year there isn't much there. Adam Gase, I feel like, is a good head coach. I feel like he should stay. He established a winning tradition at home. He just needs to figure out what the heck the issues are on third down and the road. Replace Matt Burke so we have a consistent defense because there is talent on that side of the football. But who the heck knows what's going to happen at this point? It's all up in the air right now. But this loss put a bad taste in a lot of our mouths, and it's going to send this franchise in a spiral. And who knows where this train's going to stop. I did like 4 or 5 metaphors right there. It's pretty, but no, I'm just joking. But yeah, seriously though, I don't know where this is going. Which takes me off as a fan, because as a fan, the worst thing that you can is like, where is this all headed? Again, if the draft was had better quarterbacks in it, I would be excited about some of this stuff. Be like, okay, we have a chance to go get someone who's really good. There isn't anyone this year, so to do that, you really, if we do all of these things, you're really setting up a season where we're just gonna suck. If we bring in like someone like that. And you're really just getting rid of Tannehill just because he's Tannehill at that point. Just because his name is Ryan Tannehill. That's the only reason you're getting rid of him at this point. Not because of play. Because he'll outplay anybody who he's better than anybody in the free agent market. And the draft, it's a big question mark as well. So that is going to be it, guys. Let me know what you guys think. What will you guys do? And if you were Stephen Ross right now, I am Skax83. And I cannot wait for next week's podcast. And I'll see you guys in the next one.